TikTok and its parent company ByteDance have landed their first ally on Capitol Hill, Democratic Congressman Jamal Bowman of New York. Bowman told NBC News he has not seen evidence the Chinese government is using the app to spy on Americans, adding, quote, "There are many apps on our phones right now that are Chinese apps, and so the idea that, oh, TikTok is the boogeyman is just part of a political fear-mongering that's happening." Bowman's support comes as TikTok CEO is expected to testify before the House Energy and Commerce Committee tomorrow morning in what likely will be a combative hearing on whether the app presents a security risk to the United States. The hearing is expected to focus on whether the app should be banned outright in the United States. In light of a potential ban, the Wall Street Journal is reporting TikTok's advertising staff has been downplaying that threat to keep brands from cutting their spending with the company. Joining us now, FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr. Commissioner Carr is advocating for a TikTok ban in the United States. Mr. Commissioner, thanks for being with us this morning. So what is the case for banning TikTok outright in the United States? What are the risks you see?
Yeah, well, obviously TikTok is an immensely popular application. I think that's part of what we see with Representative Bowman talking about. I think, therefore, it's incumbent on government officials to speak very clearly about the real national security threats. And TikTok is not just another fun, short-form video application where you can share dances or other memes. It operates as a very sophisticated surveillance tool. Underneath, it's pulling everything from search and browsing history, keystroke patterns, potentially, according to their own terms of service, biometrics, including face prints and voice prints. And for years, we were told by TikTok officials, don't worry, all of this is stored in the U.S. In some cases, they would say it doesn't even exist in China. And then this past summer, BuzzFeed News had this blockbuster report that had internal audio communications of TikTok saying that, in fact, quote, everything is seen in China. And that exposed their representations as nothing more than gaslighting. But it goes beyond that. Subsequently, TikTok itself was forced to admit that, yes, in fact, they used the application illicitly to surveil the locations of specific journalists, both here in the U.S. and abroad, that have been writing negative stories about TikTok. So this is one where the facts are there. The red flags are pretty well known now. So
we've heard many make the case that, yes, TikTok may be a problem, but so, too, then, if we're talking about data mining and collecting what everybody knows about each other, Facebook, Twitter, you could go down the list of social media companies that do this kind of thing. What's the distinction in your mind with TikTok?
Yeah, I think there's a baseline level of concern that we all have with privacy in social media apps, and there's work going on in Congress to try to look at some privacy legislation. But the issues with TikTok go beyond those that would be addressed by baseline privacy legislation. And again, it has to do with these facts that we've seen. In fact, right now, the DOJ and the FBI are investigating TikTok for that surveilling of specific journalists. And this week, as we mentioned, they're testifying here in the House tomorrow. And I really view this as a Hail Mary hearing for TikTok, where they got to put a lot of fears to rest. And their testimony of their CEO was actually published on the internet late last night. And I read through it, and I got to say, it raises more questions than it answers. And it continues to do a lot of hand-waving about these data flows back into China. So, again, I think there's some unique facts here with TikTok that have been explored through this Treasury Department 2-year process that put it in a different category than other social media applications.
Commissioner, I don't have TikTok because I find it scary enough and the risk of spying to be real enough. But most of America, almost half of Americans do use TikTok. And then you look at Democrats, and most of them oppose banning TikTok. 63% of Democrats oppose it, and then 61% of the 18 to 34-year-old vote that is predominantly Democrat and voted for Biden, they oppose it too. How politically risky is this for the Biden administration?
You know, we'll look as a threshold matter. Obviously, I don't think sort of the domestic politics should be a driving force in this national security decision. But, you know, like the movie Casablanca, not being shocked at gambling, I'm not shocked that politics is part of a discussion in Washington. But look, I actually think there's a lot of parents that would find this very popular. They understand some of the risks. There's other studies out there that showed that something like only 30 or 40% oppose a TikTok ban. But the reality is we have to do the right thing by national security. And I think part of this, again, is explaining to parents what's going on here. There was a study that the New York Times published maybe a month or so ago, that looked at accounts set up for 13-year-old girls on TikTok, and it showed that they were being showed self-harm, eating disorder related content within minutes of those accounts being set up. And then flash forward to the version of TikTok, Douyin, a separate app that's available in China, and it's showing those kids educational material, museum exhibits, science experiments. So I think there's a real challenge here. And we've also seen, frankly, interference in our elections. There was a report that showed ahead of our midterm elections recently the CCP's state media set up TikTok accounts without disclosing that they were state media accounts, unlike other social media. And they targeted select politicians for criticism and divisive videos ahead of our election. So this is one where I think we got to make the case. And that's why you see FBI Director Chris Wray out there. And frankly, Democrats. Krishnamurthy, Democrat from Illinois, on House Intel, has been one of the strongest voices on this. He's exactly right. Democrat Senator Mark Warner, chair of Senate Intel, has said that TikTok, quote, scares the dickens out of him. And so I think this is one where a lot of these Democrats are leading in the right direction.
So, Commissioner, obviously there are great concerns about the app in China. Is there at this point, though, any evidence that the company, that ByteDance, that TikTok, has shared data, Americans' data, with the Chinese government?
I think so. And in part, if you ask TikTok, have you shared data with personnel in Beijing that are themselves members of the CCP? When their CTO testified a couple months ago in Congress, she said that she wanted to decline to answer that question because she didn't want to get into political affiliation. So right where they refuse to answer questioning is where that nexus would be disclosed. And there's a new study published by the Australian Parliament looking at these issues that really exposed the close relationship between TikTok, ByteDance, and the CCP party committees that are embedded in ByteDance. So I think there's a lot of reason to be concerned there. They certainly have not shut the door and said, no, our user data has never made its way into the hands of the CCP.
Mike Barnicle.
Isn't there a larger issue involved here, and that would be the issue of privacy? With all of these applications, TikTok, Facebook, you name it, the invasion of people's personal privacy is a constant agitation and threat each and every day in this country. Is any of it under the purview of the FCC?
We have a role to play to some extent with privacy. The Federal Trade Commission has a broader purview. They're sort of the expert consumer protection agency in this country. And Congress, frankly, there's a lot of discussion, bipartisan right now, talking about putting in place bipartisan protections. And I think that would go a long way, particularly for social media companies that operate in a capitalist environment, that operate in a way that's constrained by court systems. But again, we've already seen TikTok engage in abusive conduct. Again, they're negotiating right now with the Treasury Department to try to avoid a ban. And during that moment, when they had every incentive to operate in the right way, that's when they were surveilling the locations of journalists. So I do think there's baseline level of concerns we need to address across the board as a government. But there's something unique, and that leads us to need to take an action on TikTok in the near term.
So TikTok CEO says the company has never been asked, nor has it ever shared any of that user data with the Chinese government, as you suggest, could happen at some time down the road. But if that did happen, what is the fear? Just to explain and take it one step further. So all this data is collected from users of TikTok. Let's say it makes its way into the hands of the Chinese government. What is the fear from your end of what the government might do with Americans' information?
Yeah, look, there's a report just this week in Forbes newly describing a tool that a TikTok employee says they have access to that employee refers to as NSA to go that allows it to build potentially a digital dossier. So there's all sorts of espionage, foreign influence, blackmail potential. And recently there was a question in the Senate about, could you use this application? I think this is what Democrat Congressman Krishnamurthy is focused on for foreign influence campaigns in the case, for instance, of Taiwan. If you have 150 million people that are on TikTok, a substantial number of those are getting their news, they could use it to change people's viewpoints on these issues. And in fact, right now, if you look, there was a study that showed if you search certain terms on TikTok like CCP, Uyghur, Hong Kong, you get very positive results for the CCP as compared to the same terms being searched in, say, Instagram or YouTube. So I think that potential for foreign influence is very real and serious.
And just before I let you go, Commissioner, one of the things that Congressman Bowman and some others have said is that this is sort of fear-mongering about China. Congressman Bowman even used the term xenophobia about China. How do you respond to that?
No, not at all. Look, I think we have the facts very clearly here. And if you step back, India was one of the very first countries to ban TikTok entirely. They did that in 2020. Taiwan, which is, I think, 97% Han Chinese, has banned TikTok from government devices. And so I think if you look, this is broad-based across the world. Lots of governments, bipartisan, taking action on this issue.
All right. We will see where this goes in Congress. I'm sure we'll be talking to you more about this important issue. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr. Mr. Commissioner, thanks for your time this morning.